We also, as you would recall, suspended our countermeasures, which been already prepared and approved by our member states, because there was a proposal to create additional negotiating space to solve this problem in amicable way, as a closest ally, as the EU and the US should do, and we've been very much focusing on these negotiations, and I still believe in them. And I think after the discussions we had on technical level, an exchange I had with Hava Latnik over the weekend and Jameson Greer yesterday, and this morning, I believe that we can achieve the positive result. Of course, if everything fails, we've been also very transparent and clear from the beginning that we are ready to defend our interests, and that we do our utmost to rebalance our trade relationship. But before we would end up there, we will do our utmost to explore every negotiating option and every possibility to resolve this matter, as the two closest allies should do, through negotiations and mutually beneficial agreement.
Next question, gentleman over there, in the third row. Yes.
Good afternoon, I'm Thomas Asportas, reporter for French media BFM Business. You're saying you still believe in them. You're saying you had a positive and constructive discussion with your American counterpart. What makes you still being optimistic? What makes you still have faith in the American administration? Thank you.
I think what makes me optimistic is that I see the progress. I mean, I know where we have started, and we know, I can compare, what's been the position at the beginning and how we are progressing right now. So I think that the discussions are now very concrete. We are going through very concrete sectors, areas, and also the potential landing zone. So this is what still, of course, keeps me optimistic. And on top of it, if you allow me to address it also from this perspective, EU and US, we are covering like 30% of the global trade. And I think that our responsibility goes well beyond our bilateral relations. I mean, if this relationship would not work as it should, it would have, I would say, repercussions for the whole global trading system. And therefore, I think that we indeed have the responsibility, and I clearly feel it. And I think we in EU, we feel it, that we should approach this with the utmost seriousness and with the utmost effort to resolve these problems. We recognize the ambition of United States of America to reindustrialize. We have the same ambition. And we also are reindustrializing the Europe, and we are adopting a lot of measures in that regard. So I still believe that there is many more areas and sectors which connect us and divide us, and therefore I believe that we can resolve them amicably, and I think it's our duty to do our best and to explore all the avenues which are there. Of course, as you know, we are also preparing for the possibility that this would not happen. The consultations on the countermeasures are ongoing. They will be completed very soon. We are following very much rules-based, transparent procedure in these regards. So we clearly would be prepared for that eventuality as well. But I think that it's our duty to do our utmost to succeed in negotiations.
Okay, back to the ladies in the middle, and then...
Thank you so much, Camille Gaze from Politico. So my first question would be to have a sense from you, Commissioner, whether you think the European Union will manage to have a deal before the July 9th tariff pause, before it elapses. So there has been this sense in the European Union that we wouldn't accept a UK-style agreement with the sectoral tariffs, with the universal tariffs still in place. Do you think the European Union will manage to get rid of it in light of your recent engagement? And then my second question would be to have a sense of what you make of the requests from Washington now in light of your recent exchanges, because we've seen some frustration on the European side that it wasn't really clear what is it that they were requested. And I was wondering if today's meeting provided a bit of clarity on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think that it was the outcome of a very good call between the President von der Leyen and President Trump a couple of days ago, where from both sides there was clearly reiterated that we should do our utmost to find an amicable solution and or to get the deal before July 9th. And it's clearly the ambition from our side, and I think that it's also ambition from the US side. Of course, I mean, we have much more complex and a much wider trade relationship than UK with US, and therefore I'm sure that also our agreement will look different. I would not go into the modalities because I think each agreement is different, but we're clearly working on all the areas. If you ask me what concretely we are looking at, so I mean, I'm sure you are aware that United States issued the economic report at the beginning of this year, where they're kind of looking at different trade barriers and market access questions, more or less with all the trading partners in the world. And as you know, there are special chapters for the European Union concerning tariff lines, concerning market access issues, concerning the trade barriers as they are perceived by our American colleagues. So I would say that this is the first part of the discussion. Clarification, looking at what we can do in that regard. Very often, also explanation how we see the U.S. perception of the tariff barriers, and explaining how the system is working in the EU and what can be done, and where we do not have much flexibility. Second part is concerning, I would say, the horizontal issues where we believe we can do much more together. I'm talking about semiconductors, AI chips. I'm talking about energy security linked with LNG. I'm talking about the common approach to the critical minerals. I'm talking about the way how to address, for example, the steel production overcapacity. I'm talking about the fair deal if it comes to the automotive industry. And then you have a third part where we are looking together at the possible investments, and then also the issues linked with I would say also planned I would say purchases from the perspective how this would affect the trade deficit the United States has with the EU if it comes to goods. So these are, I would say, the big topics. And when we are talking about $1.7 trillion relationship, you can imagine that there is a lot to discuss, and therefore we need all the expertise available and all the energy to pace these negotiations at appropriate speed.
So the gentleman in the middle, and then
Thank you for taking my question. I'm Yoshihiro Nakajima, working for Kyodo News, a Japanese news agency. I would like to hear about the Commission's negotiation strategy. As you explained, President von der Leyen and President Trump held a telephone conversation, and then President Trump postponed his plan to impose 50% tariff. In response to this, has the Commission changed its negotiation strategy with the United States? Negotiations with the United States have been slow, but you now say that they are moving in the right direction. Are you prepared to make concessions in order to reach an agreement with the United States? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there was clearly the different appreciations of the pace of the negotiations, and maybe also because we've been approaching it from different angles. But I think now we have the clarity, and after the phone call of our presidents and my extensive discussions with Howard Lutnick and Jameson Greer, we agreed how to, let's say, restructure the focus of our negotiations. So we did that. We make it as practical, as concrete as possible, and therefore our team is currently in US. The most of the weeks they will spend there. They're talking to the US Trade Representative Office. They're talking to the Department of Commerce. They already covered quite a lot of ground, and of course. We had the first assessment this morning, which I just presented to you, but these discussions are continuing also today, and there is a time difference, as you know. So we will come back to the, let's say, political stock-taking assessment with Jameson Green and Secretary Latnik for sure in the next couple of days after we will have a time to go through the results and reports in great detail, and we would for sure agree what should be our next steps.
So, and one last question over here in the front.
Peter Boston with the Financial Times. You mentioned your meeting with the Chinese Trade Minister, and you mentioned the common challenges that the US and Europe face. To what extent are you alarmed by the letters and complaints from trade associations covering autos, medical devices, etc., that current Chinese export controls on rare earth metals and magnets are reaching a point that they are having to shut down production and shut down? And what are you doing with the Chinese to try and address that?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. As you can imagine, clearly this was one of my priorities to address this issue yesterday, and we did. And I informed my Chinese counterpart about the alarming situation in the European car industry, but I would say industry as such, because clearly the rare earth and permanent magnets are absolutely essential for the industrial production. And therefore, we, of course, have understanding if you're talking about some kind of dual use monitoring, but I think if it comes to the permanent magnets, which are used for clearly civilian production, because you need them from the washing machine through the car to, I would say, any home appliance we have most probably at home, all of us. So this is extremely disruptive for the industry. Minister Wang Wentao explained to me how the system work. We compared the figures. I mean, his figures on granting the export licenses has been much better than mine. So we agreed that our teams will clearly go through very concrete figures which we have on our side. And I told Minister Wang Wentao that we will really supply him with all the data, and it would cover all the companies which are now in extremely difficult situation, because I know that some of the car makers are already announcing that if this issue will not be addressed, that might be huge production difficulties in a short period of time. So, I mean, his information was a little bit different, and therefore we agreed that we would clearly clarify this as soon as possible, and that we would also address the propositions I made yesterday, and this was that our strong preference here should be not to cover, let's call it civilian production by this very complex system, but if you cannot go to that direction, which would be our clear preference, to have a systemic solutions at which I would describe as a general application, just to kind of cover it, I don't know, once a year for the whole production per company. So to avoid this huge, I would say, paperwork delays and stress which this present for our industry and for our company. And again, we agreed that we will come back to this issue relatively soon once we'll be able to clarify the data from the both sides.
Thank you so much. I will have to stop here because of the program that we've got. So thank you, Commissioner, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.